so fun.
So much fun. I love that. Shout out to our production team for putting together the best graphics, the best sound, only on the HR Morning Show. There we go.
Gave themselves a round of applause. We love that.
Any way you could get me that noise, like when I wake up in the morning, I would love that. All right,
I needed that today.
I need that. Like anytime, like I get like a sale, like I could just look around and be like, yes, thank you. Adam is friendly. We got Adam in the chat. You're a friendly guy. Okay. Well, look, we're looking about HR events. So what I would love to know from people in the audience is, what are some of the events you're going to? Are you going to any of these events? We got some great ones. We've got SourceCon coming up. We've got the ERE Recruiting Conference. We've got Transform 2025. And we've got Talent Acquisition Week coming up as well. I would love to know from you guys where you're going to be at. Danielle, what are you least excited about? No, I'm just kidding. That would be terrible. What are some of the events that you're going to be there in person for? What are you excited about?
Yeah. Well, there's a chance I'm at TA Week in February because my mom lives out in LA, so it'll be nice to go visit her. But Transform, going to be there. I'm going to do a formal announcement at some point in the next 2 weeks, but I'm going to be speaking. I'm going to be shaking up some the stages with some Gen Z content, and hopefully bringing some more Gen Zers to Vegas, but we'll see about that. It's a very ambitious dream. I've never been to the other ones, but Transform, it'll be my second time.
Amazing.
So what about you?
Amazing. SourceCon's coming up. I'm unfortunately not going to be available then, and I think with ERE, I'm actually going to England at the end of this month for a wedding.
Ooh.
So I've like kind of got that mixed up in the travel plans. But yeah, Transform, I will be there again, and then I know with Purple Acorn, we're going to be cooking up something special. We got Adam Posner in the house. Adam, you seem really active in the chat. I really feel like we should just plug you into this live show.
Adam, is it Posner or Posner?
Posner.
He's a poser.
The pause. All right, so pause is going to be at ERE and Transform. Purple Acorn is going to be doing something special at TA Week, so really excited to hear.
That's a sleigh.
I'm excited to hear what that is going to be about. But yeah, I'd look any other conferences you guys are going to be into in the chat. Let us know. Would love to hear from that. But those are the events, so that's where you can find us. Let's move on to our next segment here. Hey, Lynn.
Hello there. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
I am fabulous. So you ran that whole list of events and you missed the big one happening like tomorrow.
We got to save it for you. That's why.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm on site. We're getting ready for Unleash World. Starting to get some stuff locked in.
What's it looking like out there?
There is a chance of an alien landing at some point, is what I hear.
I've been on the lookout. I haven't seen anything as of yet.
Yeah. I have some early sightings that are already happening.
Really?
His swag already showed up behind me, so that's usually a telltale sign he's coming right along with it.
I love that. Are you able to kind of show us some of the swag that you've got on offer here behind you?
Oh, you know I can. Okay, here we go. Here, I'm so excited. Whoop, bumping in. We've got handy dandy new mugs.
Oh, look at that!
Isn't he cute?
So cute. I love that.
He's so cute. I love him. He's like my I guess. New handy dandy water bottles.
Oh, I like those.
Right? Yeah, those are super cool. And then we've got some other fun stuff happening here that you're not going to be able to see unless you're here. But we're gonna do some filming later on. We'll give you a shot. We've got some games going on, which will be very cool. So the whole theming here is an HR.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Yes, I am back. I know you guys miss me so much. Good morning, Joel, Danielle. What's happening?
Good morning.
What's happening?
It's so cute that we're back together.
The most fearsome trio in HR.
Let's. Can we all link hands?
Tweet. Oh, that's the wrong way. Hands.
There we go.
Hands.
I love this.
Look at me.
That'll be the intro for next week's session.
Yes, like virtual high fives.
Adam, are you feeling good? Are you feeling ready?
Yeah, let's do it. So welcome everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to the #1 spot for all things HR all morning long. The gang's all here. I got Danielle. I got Joel. We got the production
Victor in the house. We got David in the house.
We got our weatherman. We don't have Clark this week though. Clark is on sabbatical. And we're going to keep the show moving here. Welcome. And everyone who has not been here before, thank you for tuning in and giving us a little bit of your time on this Tuesday morning. And we're part of Purple Acorn. You can check out all things at purpleacorn.io. Follow us on LinkedIn. Follow us on YouTube. We turn this into a podcast every week. We have clips. We have it all. And most importantly, engage in the comments. Get involved. That's what it's all about. I am back. But one thing I'm doing, this is the first time I've done this in a long time. I'm sitting. I don't know if you guys know this. I stand for every single podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You're standing, Joel?
I'm standing.
Danielle, are you sitting?
I'm sitting.
No, but you're outstanding.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm just sitting today. I'm trying to see it. I know it does the lights, and you can see the switches over here. I mean,
wow.
We got Benjamin Vissa in the house from Germany.
What prompted this seating session?
I'm just a little tired today. I'm just not feeling my standing self. So I'm gonna give it a shot. Oh God!
You're not feeling your standard self. Emphasis on stand.
I know, but I usually have a standing desk because it keeps me engaged and it keeps me active.
And
here's a fun fact, Joel. I use a balance board during my show for a couple of reasons. One, the balance board on the floor keeps me engaged, and it keeps my core engaged, and that's how I get my workout a couple of times a week by standing and doing podcasting.
Guys, look,
pro tip.
I don't think people know that this is a real live show. Sometimes
stop talking over each other.
No, this is look. That's my job, all right. I'm monitoring the chat, and I will shout over you. Mike in the house, guys. This is a real live show, just for everyone out there.
Greetings from
Dallas. I really want to go to Dallas, guys.
It's not that exciting. I'm telling you, and I'm sorry, Craig Fisher and crew. Dallas is.
I've heard so much.
It's fine. I mean, I'll take Austin over Dallas, but I would take Dallas over Houston.
Houston. Is that how you pronounce it?
Houston?
First to Houston.
No, in New York it's
they'd be like, what's Houston?
Houston. All right, this is enough of that. Let's get this show rolling, everybody. All right. This one is a fun one because it's going to stir up some controversy here a little bit. But guess what? Hey, Home Depot execs, once a quarter, you got to go to the office and slum it with, you're all on the floor workers here. I think this is a great thing, right? It kind of goes back to undercover boss. Anybody who's in a corporate office at a large organization, a retail organization, should spend some time on the floor where they're in the trenches, on the ground employees. This is where you pick up those nuances. This is where you pick up those subtleties, those things that don't come through in reports or in sales reports. It's that interaction, seeing how they interact with customers, seeing how they interact with each other, and just like looking at the store, simple things. And it's the art of hospitality that you could apply anywhere. How are they treating customers? Are they giving them a good experience? So this article was in, the most coveted, reputable magazine, newspaper in New York City, the New York Post.
My first fun fact, my first feature was in the New York Post. Well, my first really big one, anyway.
Well, I have no problem with them doing this, but if I'm pulling up the article on my own screen here, there was one thing I didn't like how here, this is a line from the article I did not like, so rag on this rag's writer. Starting in the fourth quarter of this year, even workers will have to schlep onto the gray floor and don the orange apron 4 days a year. Schlep? Only in New York did you drop a schlep reference in an article. Guys, what do you think about this?
That's funny. So I actually really like this. I think that other companies that do this tend to find a lot of success too with employee engagement. I think that if you put people similarly to like COVID, when we all went virtual, you go from putting people in offices at different levels, very hierarchical, to putting people on Zoom in boxes where each box, usually is an equal size, I think it's an equalizer. And personally, like my dad, he owns a business, as we've heard, and we need to go to RPM Raceway to,
In Long Island.
challenge each other and see who wins. Um, he goes to the office a lot, and he is the owner, and he helps run the business. He doesn't necessarily need to be there. He hired people to do that, but I think that because he goes, people see him as more approachable. People see him and the workplace as more human,
Human.
and more. I think, and he's able to have a better hold on like what actually is happening on the ground. So I'm a big fan of this. Joel, what do you think?
Hey, first shout out. I want to shout out Paul. I want to shout out Adam, Corey, Nikki. We see you out there, Dakota. Great.
Thanks
to
for
see
tuning in,
all of you.
guys.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all these comments. We love the comments. My personal thought on this,
today.
I like it. I've always been a fan of that kind of mentality of. I think at a lot of these companies, these executives, I'll be honest, they lose touch with where real people are at, and they're making decisions from like an office that's not necessarily really connected to the main body of employees. So I think it's great. I think the only challenge with stuff like this is people are going to be on the like best behavior, right? Like if you know,
well, maybe it's kind of like a hidden boss kind of thing where they just roll in, but you could kind of tell when Bob from corporate comes in and
that's what I'm saying. When it's like, hey,
the tie with the apron over, I'd be like, that guy is not from.
But I
think
think
Kansas.
I think it's great if they go in with the right mentality of like, hey, I want to connect with people who are like serving the customers on the front line. I think if they take it with that attitude of like, hey, I really want to connect, I want to learn about you. I think it could be great. It depends on how they approach it. If you're like, oh, I got to go there again, and that's your attitude, it might not work as well. So it'd be interesting to see if more companies will follow this as well, because it seems like it probably makes pretty big headlines. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments, yay or nay on this.
Joel, you said something funny. No. I'm curious how this is operationalized, right? Are they giving like the general manager of the store a heads up that the CFO is coming in or a senior executive, and they're like, guys, we got to tidy up tonight. Jim's coming in from corporate, or like they just roll in and like, hey, I'm just working here today. I would tend to think it's the latter, but
someone said Best Buy also did this, so.
The other thing is that's interesting to me too is that today you could buy anything online. And so I think ultimately what the product is for Home Depot and Best Buy and these companies like B&H is the experience of being in the store. And so if that's your product, then what better way to get people all aligned and on board with the same vision of what that should really be and look like, and bridge the gap between where we want to be and where we are now.
Finger on the pulse of your customers, finger on the pulse of the business. Let's keep it going. Danielle, what are we talking about today? What's your headline?
Well, Joel. Oh, okay.
Oh, what the hell is that?
I guess I'm going first. So
wait,
you're looking at the intestines.
I missed Joel. Sorry, ladies first today.
It's
Sorry
okay.
about that.
It's a good thing. It's good to switch it up sometimes. So basically, gut health is really important, and it's gaining traction in the benefits department. And it also can be a workplace equity issue. Some of the stats they pulled, which I found interesting, was that women tend to be more impacted by GI issues than men. And socially vulnerable groups, minorities, tend to have worse health outcomes overall, which makes sense and is consistent across the board, including for GI health. So women and these groups face higher rates of workplace discrimination, and they also tend to be able to work from home less. Men have a disproportionate access to work from home, not just because the type of work that they do, but also because they tend to hold higher positions. So that comes with the job.
Am I gonna have to self-identify my gut health on job applications now? Like, what the hell is this?
Well, actually, if you look into when they say, "Do you have a disability?"
I identify as gassy.
IBS is in there.
Oh,
IBS,
wow.
Yeah, it is. It's technically falls under that category. So
we should have ample restrooms in the office.
I mean, I know that both of you have problems with your gut. Tell
Well,
me
I mean,
about.
but this is wait, like no, I'm gonna get real for a second. I remember a couple years ago, I had a candidate who was going through Crohn's, which
Ugh,
is very serious. They were in the office,
horrible.
and they brought it up on the first interview with me as a recruiter. And honestly, I didn't. I was kind of taken off guard a little bit, but I decided to go down the path of treating it. However, how I usually talk to folks about any disabilities, whatever they're going through, and handled it the same way with delicacy, and said, listen, I'm not in that company, in that office, but I certainly think this is before we were, remote, that you go visit that office and you go check out the facilities, like straight up, just check it out. Maybe they put you closer to a restroom.
Yeah.
That's why I work from home.
So basically, just work from home and it won't be a problem. All right. What do you think, Joel?
No, I think like Adam said, like with any kind of if you have a disability and it's gonna be something that you're gonna bring into the workplace and it's you're worried about it. I think just leading with empathy from the HR side, right? So like creating an environment where people feel safe to discuss it. I mean, I could tell you like I do have some issues with my gut, so I totally relate to this, and I know my wife does as well. So, um, and I think more and more we're going to see things like this because I think there's just a lot more education around gut health in general, right? And I think people are a
Yeah.
lot more aware of like even just the food that we're eating and all of that type of stuff. I know there's like podcasts
Yeah.
out about it, so I think like anything else that employees are dealing with, I think you've got to make it a safe place to have those conversations. And if
Mm-hmm.
people bring it up, like you should have a plan, right? And be able to. I don't know. I think sometimes these headlines, saying like it can be a workplace equity issue. I mean, that seems like a
I think
little
they're
bit.
pushing it.
I think that they might be like pushing it to a little bit of an extreme there, and like not everything has to be like this huge thing. I just think create a place where you can share like what issues you're having and actually help people. So Nikki said the importance of accommodation and non-discrimination for that to close exactly for people
There we
who
go.
close
Simple
it.
as that, right?
See, that's
Yeah.
why Nikki, we got to get you on the show.
I like Nikki
Um,
just being like maybe a real time kind of commentator. Like obviously we have to get Nikki on the show. Nikki Russell's awesome. She's also a good luck charm for me in the casino. Joel was there last year at
I
Transform.
was. This is the
Um,
greatest moment of Adam's life.
I mean it was a decent run. It was nothing special, believe me. But we love Nikki Russell and we appreciate her commenting. So let's figure out a way. Let's get Nikki Russell
Yeah, and
involved as a
someone else said prioritizing gut health and workplace equity together leads to a more inclusive, supportive, and
okay.
healthy work.
Yeah.
And that's what it's healthy work environments, right? That's the
Yes,
goal.
healthy work.
Feel
At the end
comfortable.
of the
Probiotics for all.
at the end of this piece, it was like, oh, we need better solutions for gut health and this kind of thing. And it just got me thinking about like funny examples of that, like a flatulence room, like where you could just
Yeah.
go in and
You
like
know what's fun? That's
rip it.
wait, that's kind of funny. So you have nursing rooms for for mothers, and then you have a it's called the bathroom, Danielle. We already have that. It's called. Let's keep the show moving. We're getting to potty humor. Joel, let's double back to you. I'm sorry. I'm
Unlimited
sorry.
probiotic sodas. I like that one.
I actually the
True.
probiotic sodas are good. Joel, what are we
That's
talking
great.
about?
All right, look. I mean, it had to be me to bring this news to you guys.
Breaking news.
Breaking news: Spotify says you are not our children and breaks the "we are a family" narrative that runs through corporate. No, look,
There you go, Spotify.
you got look at Spotify. I've ripped on them a couple times over the past 12 months because like their CEO was like, we didn't know layoffs were going to affect us so negatively. All right, so I've definitely made fun of Spotify, but I think this is smart. I think brands that actually are saying things like this, like, "Hey, our employees aren't children. We hired you. We trust you. We trust you to get the work done. You're performing well. We're not going to force you back to the office." I think for a lot of startups right now, so if you're a startup and you're trying to compete against these big companies, this type of branding, it's going to work well. It's going to attract. You could attract some really top talent. You might be able to compete now on be able to provide remote work versus pay because no one could compete with these big companies that are forcing people back to the office on pay. Now you have a little bit of leverage. You can talk about the commute. You could talk about how much money that people are spending going into the office. So I like this. I think the way that they phrased it as well, I think it says a lot, right? Like, hey, we're
Yeah.
not treating you like children, we're treating you like an adult. And I think that's a lot of what people resonate with is
Agree.
when it comes to remote work.
Yeah.
So Danielle, what do you think?
I think I was about to speak to that. I think it's smart corporate comms because it doesn't sound corporate. And I think the more that you could say kind of the obvious of like what people are really saying behind closed doors, because you can walk on the streets of New York City and hear people talking about this exact topic. And I think they will say things like, "I'm not a child. Why is my employer treating me like one?"
Yep.
Right. And so I think appealing to that kind of obvious and also super relatable thought and opinion is a really smart move. And to your point, I think it will attract top talent. And I think the other thing too is, and that came up at the remote work conference I was at last week in Tulsa, is like remote doesn't mean remote only. And
Mm.
I think that's something that we need to continue to remind ourselves of,
Yeah.
because even if you're maybe a younger worker and you want more of that like in-person connection and or the opportunity to have it, I don't think that Spotify is like a bad place for you just because they enable people to work from home. I think it just becomes a more, it needs to be more intentional, and they're probably working on it. If they're, with whatever resources they're not putting into a brand new fancy office space, they're probably reinvesting into their people. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not in the room, but that's what I would assume.
Well,
Where are the finances going?
yeah. Another interesting point here, guys, is like we
Follow
have
the
to assume
money.
that Spotify has a decent amount of real estate, decent amount of offices, and it goes against the narrative of hey, we have to justify all this money
Yeah.
we're spending in office space, and Spotify's like, again, I'm going to repeat what I always say. It comes down to choice, options, and trust. Right? Trust your employees that you're hired to get their work done anywhere. Give them options: work from home, work from an
Yeah.
office, work from the moon, and let it be their choice.
Work
I
from
look,
the
I
moon.
honestly think there's an opportunity for companies that are sending people back to the office. I actually think they need to be honest about it, because they right now they're using, hey, like I saw
Yeah.
some executives at Amazon also came out and said, hey, we didn't produce the results that we needed, and I've heard executives saying we really regret letting people work from home because we weren't as creative and those things. And
Mm,
I don't know where the data is that actually backs that up, or if they can show that, because there's actually been really
fake
profitable years
news.
for a lot of these companies. I think you're better off to say, like, look, this is our culture. We want to control you. Just say
Oh,
it.
that's going to work real well in employer branding.
Or we have too much headcount. We need to downsize. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. I just
or we
it's like,
invested in retail real estate, and we need to get our money back. Just be
yeah, just
honest.
admit that you made a mistake and like a, improper judgment. The other thing that came up last week at the conference was Raj Chowdhury from Harvard Business.
Name
He
dropper.
started talking about like
Love it.
how you do remote work in blue collar situations and environments,
Yep.
What do you
and
mean?
started talking about like digital twins and specifically in manufacturing. It was super interesting. So I'm keeping my eye on that space too of like,
Ooh,
yeah, how are we enabling remote work for like nurses and
let's not.
Well,
doctors
is
and
it remote work though, or is it just like in this headline saying we're not treating you like children? So with my children, they got to ask me to do every single thing, right? Like, hey, dad, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I go here? Can I go
Dad, can
that?
I tell you something? Dad, can I tell you something? Dad, can I tell you
Yeah, it's
something?
kind
Tell
of
me what?
with my kids, like it's like
this is why I don't have kids.
I'm kind of a micromanager with my kids, right? For their own safety, I'm teaching them. When you're 25 to 30, 35, 40, however old you are, it's like once you're past, a certain age, you really don't need to be treated like a
Where's he
children.
going
So
with
I think
this?
it's even with the office mandates. I think it's can you do an office mandate with being flexible, right? But now we're talking about you got to scan in with a badge, scan out, and
Scam.
it's
Yeah.
to me, it's what that represents. So I think if you can create an office environment that's flexible, that still values people going to like live their life,
Right.
and you can balance the two, I think
Well,
it can be done.
I think we've beaten this topic
Exhausted
up.
it.
We've exhausted. Let's keep it moving. Let's do the event roundup.
Let's go.
Okay.
I don't really.
All right. Now we're fancy. I don't know if anyone can notice. Look, we're fancy. We're fancy. We got tiaras,
Fine.
we got
I
bow
sparkle the
ties.
most.
We got tiaras and bow ties. First and foremost, it's the event roundup, and we have to
roundup.
start off with our wonderful friends over at ERIN and Virgil HR at their award ceremony coming up November 14th in Atlanta. Virgil is up for Compliance Solution of the Year, and ERIN is up for Recruitment Marketing Solution of the Year. So we're going to give all of our vibes, all of our thoughts, all of our warm wishes to our friends over at Virgil and ERIN. And anybody going there? Anybody going to the to that award ceremony in Atlanta?
I wish.
No.
What's sound
we
effect?
I got it. Sorry, Ben. I'm on top of that. Well, we wish them all the luck in the world. What else we got coming up? We have SourceCon. SourceCon is coming up now. It's now. It's actually now. And I think Evan is going to be driving down to San Diego, and we got my buddy Brian Fink and some other friends down there. That's going to be awesome. We have TA week. Oh, well, let me back that train up. I am heading out west. I'm going back out west for the second time in a month. I was out in Vegas last month. I'm going to be going out next month to ERE in Anaheim, and this is going to be a big one. I am going to be taking the stage, and I am doing podcasting for recruitment and employer branding. I'm going to walk the audience through how a lot of these companies are utilizing podcasts for employee engagement, for candidate engagement. And I'm going to show them how to create a podcast, what questions to ask, the strategy and thought behind it.
How do I tune in if I'm not going to be there in person?
It's actually going to be live streamed. So my talk is going to be streamed, and Danielle will get you the link so you could watch that as well. That I'm doing that on Thursday, whatever the heck that date is, that Thursday of that week. I think it's the 14th or 15th from Anaheim. I'm going to be down there recording some content, shaking hands, checking out what's happening there. I'm excited for that. And then next week, we're going to have Michael Glenn, who runs the event on the show. We're going to talk a little bit more about the event and my keynote and some more fun stuff that we're doing there. And then we have TA week coming up in February in San Diego. And Purple Acorn is doing something special out there. So keep your eyes out there for a guest list. Who's going out there? Joel, you going out there in February? Danielle, you're going to be out there? We're going to send Joel. Joel's going to be our man on the street.
I may be out there. I don't know. I shouldn't guarantee anything.
We'll see. We'll see if we get the whole crew out there.
Nothing is guaranteed in recruitment.
But
maybe we should do an offsite and go skiing.
TalentNet Live, also in the Dallas area. Nikki is letting us know in the chat. Shout out to Craig Fisher.
And then
Thank you, Nikki.
And then I cannot believe that we're already talking about 2025. And we got something brewing for Transform, folks. We got something big brewing on a few fronts here. I'm going to give you guys a little alpha for anyone who's tuning in here. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of alpha. So the pods will be there with a very big sponsor that kind of has a color name in it. And we're going to maybe drop that maybe next week when we have an announcement to make, a very big sponsor in the HR tech space. We might be doing a little Purple Acorn live news desk from out there with a whole gang is going to be doing a live show reporting there. And Evan and I got some secret plans we're working on, but I'm not going to share those yet. So that's going to be interesting. But I know somebody that we like over here in this space. Let's talk from SourceCon. Let's hear from the man himself, Jim Stroud. Jim Stroud.
Hello. Hi. Hey. Jim Stroud here, your SourceCon editor. And I will be with you real soon, right here, talking about one of my favorite topics. SourceCon! You know, when I think about SourceCon, I just want to sing because when sources get together, it's sort of like, let's go sourcing. Let's get nuts. Ha. Yeah, things can get a little crazy, but you know, on another level, it sort of feels like a family reunion because so many of the SourceCon attendees are people who've been to previous SourceCon. We are family, yeah. I got all my sources with me. But seriously, SourceCon is more than fun and games. You do learn a lot from industry experts about what's happening now and what's happening next in our industry. And it's sort of like, it's like they're dropping knowledge bombs on you. I could go on, and I probably will when I'm there with you live. But in the meantime, I want to leave you with just one word.
I mean, that is incredible. That is.
What did I just watch?
I mean, my mind is blown right there. I mean, if that's the type of energy you're going to get from a promo video, imagine what's happening in San Diego right now at SourceCon. It is going to be crazy. I hear it's the Burning Man event of the industry. It really is. All the sorcerers and sorceresses, and they're all there. Wow.
It makes me want to just meet him. Just go and meet him.
You should. Why aren't you there? You could get on a plane right after the show.
Yeah, you're not too late.
Now.
Right now, just leave, go to JFK, get on the plane, takes the next flight to San Diego. You got a 3-hour time. We could probably get you there by 3 in the afternoon. So
maybe Amazon can get me there.
Yeah, speaking of getting there, let's keep the show rolling. It's time for All-In. Here we go. Around the world,
That's what I feel like.
Are you finally home?
I'm home. I am home.
Okay.
Like, I believe I don't know what home looks like anymore. It feels weird.
Are you back reverse jet lagged? I mean, you went backwards in time, you went forwards in time to Australia, then you came back, then you flipped back. Wait, did you go from Australia back to home and then to Paris, or did you go from Australia to Paris?
I did. I went to Australia, came home for a day and a half, flew to Paris, got home on Saturday from Paris, and I will admit there's one more. I will hit Orlando Saturday.
Oh my God.
That's it. I told him that's it. Done.
That's it.
Yeah, we're done.
Well, hopefully you're racking up the frequent flyer miles that you could use for your own personal use and, all the kind of good. So I was out last week and I missed it, but like, let's do a quick little recap here of Paris and Winston and all the new features. First of all, did you see my video? I brought my kids into it.
Freaking amazing. It was awesome.
They loved it, and now they play with the binoculars, so they're still using it, and they still don't know what Winston is. So we don't have to explain what Winston is to my kids, but for everyone out there in the HR tech space, now we could talk about Winston.
We can talk about Winston. I'm super excited about it. So launch went phenomenally well. It was super exciting. So Winston is kind of two things in one, right? So I want to be very careful about how I talk about Winston. Winston is the brains of your talent acquisition suite, right? He is the AI engine underneath it all, which allows you to take structured and unstructured data and make good, smart decisions with it, right? And then on the top layer of that, Winston is your AI companion that makes it not so scary and makes you be able to leverage and utilize it. The first round of features are primarily focused at hiring managers and helping them support hiring manager decision-making and the processes that they're executing. They can do it in the places where they work. So Slack, Teams, WhatsApp, kind of getting out of this world. Everybody has to go log into a new platform every time they want to figure out how to navigate somebody from interview to hire, right? We can do all of that in a much more comprehensive way, easy to use, which makes a lot of sense because, today, business leaders, we did a whole bunch of research before we went out with Winston.
You had to. You can't just launch something like this going in blind. I mean, there's a lot of data coming in.
There's a lot of data coming in. And listen, we talked to companies around the world. And we didn't just talk to TA leaders. We talked to business leaders. And we said, listen, what's happening for you in the talent space and what's happening in this world? And they came out with 3 big things that they said that we were going in and trying to solve.
What did they say? What were those 3 big things?
One, talent acquisition is hurting them from sustainable business growth. At the end of the day, 62% of them felt like that they couldn't be as profitable as they wanted to be because talent acquisition was somehow burdening them, right? And what that came down to at the end of the day was the amount of effort they feel like they're having to put in to get somebody across the line, right? It's just a heavy amount of lift, right? To figure out the complexities of hiring. At the end of the day, we do it all day. And most of the practitioners we're talking to who aren't listening in right now, we do this in and out. We understand how complex it is, but it's our business. We're in there. We're doing it. We understand what's happening. Those people who are hiring, for the most part, the hirers at the end of the day, this isn't what they do every day. This isn't what now they're spending 40% of their time doing it, but this isn't what they think about.
So we're talking about companies that may not have a full-fledged, TA practice involved, and you have hiring managers that are now overly involved in the actual talent acquisition process. So how do we make their job more efficient? How do we get a hire in faster and more
Right.
efficient, but still with due diligence on all sides?
Right. Although I'm gonna stop you there for a second and tell you, I
Please.
think it's a misnomer to assume that this is a problem statement for companies that don't have full-fledged TA and recruiting teams supporting them.
Okay.
Right. At the end of the day, what we're finding is across the board, hiring managers and business leaders, even though they have full TA teams supporting them in the back end, still find this horribly complex. They're not sure that they feel confident in the decisions that they're making at the end of the day. And they don't feel as though they have the control and the autonomy they need to have in order to make good choices for their business when they need to make them.
And how open are folks resistant to the AI tools, or how welcoming are they?
Well, I think so. I'm being cautious with that. Let's say I think that people are open to the idea of it, but there's a lot of fear and anxiety around it, right?
Mm.
Part of Winston was really about saying, how do we help people get used to using these decision support tools in ways that are natural and don't feel like they are overtaking the tasks that they feel they want to do themselves, right?
I like that approach.
Guidance and support, and kind of honestly kind of baby step our way in, because we know, by the way, on one hand, people are afraid of what AI is going to do in terms of whether it's going to be biased or whether it's going to help you make smart decisions, who's going to be able to leverage it, all of those things. But on the flip side, we also know that most people inside companies, particularly in white collar roles today, are using some form of AI unsanctioned by their business, right?
They're using
And
their own tools on top of whatever's going on.
right,
They're not regulated. There's no guardrails.
that's right. So we're afraid officially, and unofficially, everybody's on the deep end.
Let's dig a little bit deeper into this report. What are some other standout items that are worthwhile chatting about here?
Well, let's see here. I got to go look at my thing here. So I think what's really interesting to me is that 30% of business leaders told us that they think what's happening in TA is damaging their brand reputation.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack on this one here, because there's so many elements here. So we talk about the reputation, meaning, I mean, if I'm a recruiter looking in the market, right, like this company, they look great on paper, but geez, their hiring process, I mean, 6 months, 15 interviews, no one's getting back to me, no one's looking at resumes. That's damaging to a brand's reputation.
It hugely is. You know, that as an experienced designer, I'm going to tell you the number one thing that we keep missing in the TA space is that the experience people have when they're in the hiring process, what they go through, the tools that they engage with, the length of time, the conversation,
Workday.
the whole experience that they're going through in that space, they are not looking at that in a vacuum. They're determining whether that is good or bad based on their previous experiences with everything else out in the world. So in the world, if I can operate quickly, fastly, with the information that I need without being burdened, if I can get instantaneous support when I call, my local plumber because he's figured out how to use his chat function successfully, why can't I figure that out in a job? So there was a great quote, by the way. Brian Solis talked about a study that was done not that long ago by a company that said, listen, candidates were turning away because they were trying to book interviews, and the company was still trying to use rotary dial phones.
What?
Right? This happens, right?
No, it's real. They're outdated tech. They're not using the right tools, and candidates are getting turned off. And they're also equating a brand reputation to their candidate engagement experience. And companies need to realize how critical that is. I've talked to so many candidates that are turned off from a brand, even if they love the products, just because of a crappy experience.
Right. And they then attribute whatever that experience is to that brand. Right. You guys spend time in the social space, right?
Especially Joel. Yeah.
That's right. People are much more likely to talk about experiences that they find annoying or frustrating than they are to talk about experiences they're just okay.
Well, the birth of the original Glassdoor, right? The original, home base for disgruntled employees, and even that place is now taking a turn to be more positive and talking about the good experience as well there too. So I think companies really need to keep it top of mind. And the way, I mean, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum. It's like, how can we use these tools to make us more efficient and smarter so we could spend more time on the human side, more time on that human experience, having those real conversations with candidates and giving them an opportunity to talk so we could listen to what they're looking for in their career. And for us to talk about those intangibles, the culture, the feel, the vibe. Listen, anyone could look at a job description, anyone could look at a company description. We know what that company's about. But until you get on the call with a person and with a recruiter and a candidate, that's the real magic. Right? Bots, chat bots on all sides are only going to take us so far in this space. And then
Right.
it's kind of a battle to the bottom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think what we're seeing and what I have seen is that we have taken a lot of those engagement and interaction tools like the bots and the chat bots and right. And we've applied them onto that candidate side of the business because that's the part where we're trying to kind of mass push people through our process and through our system. And then we're spending our one-on-one time inside the business, right? Having those dialogues and those conversations. But what we're finding is we need to flip that that parameter, right? That dialogue, that story. Let's take these tools that we have, give them to the business leaders and the businesses that we're working with so that they can be fast and efficient and engage just at the right level. And let's revert our time and attention to the real human beings on the other side who we're trying to convince to come and engage with us as a company.
Sorry. So Winston launched.
Yep.
What, as much as you could share, you're open to sharing. What are some of those internal metrics to say, hey, this is going in the right direction? Here are some things we need to optimize. Like, give us a little inside baseball here.
So I'll start at the very top level, which is were people interested and were they intrigued? And could we get enough people to want to come in and have the conversation? From my perspective, the first data point I was looking at was who's walking in and having a conversation with us on launch day. We launched in Paris. We showed the video at 9:45 in the morning. We walked out that first day with over 1,700 people coming into our booth and standing 10 deep to find out what the heck this was.
We created that demand and that right? What is Winston?
What is this thing, right? What does it do? Now we translate that off to are our customers raising their hands and coming back to us and saying, wait a minute, I want to know more about this. How fast are you going to bring this to market for us? So as we start to see pressure on speed and speed to market from our customers, that tells us that we're in the right momentum, in the right space. And then just in general, the volume of new prospects who are coming in and wanting new dialogue, right?
That is fascinating. And keep it straight here. I mean, enterprise level, small business, you could apply the tools that Winston is enabling, or the elements in there at any level in any type of process.
Absolutely. It's irregardless, right? Because what we're doing is fundamentally, right? The tool itself is a tool. It's about how you can apply that across multiple different paradigms. And its ability to adjust and connect to where you need to be. One of the things we didn't talk about yet with Winston, I think is really intriguing and people don't.
What is it?
It's adaptive experiences. So you guys heard this word before, adaptive experiences?
I have heard it, but let's explain it to the audience.
So an adaptive experience means that not only can I go in as a recruiter, as a hiring manager, et cetera, and decide how I want to engage or how I want to see the platform I'm operating and working in, or what information I want provided to me at what time and what place. But the AI, Winston, can give me recommendations based on my behaviors on how I want to see information in front of me. So think about it today. One of the biggest problems with products is one customer wants a button on the right, the other customer wants a button on the left. We don't know which one to build, so we just stand at a standstill and don't build anything, right? So we've completely
process paralysis, right? That's the age-old corporate dilemma,
right? And this is why opening up that framework and letting people be able to use it like widgets, use it like you're building a website today, right? Who would go in and hard code a website anymore, right? You'd go in and use a program like Wix and you drop and drag and you'd frame out how you want this to operate and look. The same thing needs to happen with our tools and software to help us be able to execute TA, because what I do in one business is not going to be exactly the same the way I do it in business B. and the person who's using it may not be using it the same way as the other person who's using it. Somebody who's been sourcing and hiring for years has a very different expectation of what they need that system to operate like. So adding that adaptive experience, that huge amount of flexibility, is game changing, I think.
I mean, absolutely, and obviously the AI is iterative and it's learning and it's adapting as well there too. But
Yep.
how do we keep this Winston momentum alive? Right, it's not just a launch, but it's the adaptation. It's it's going to be demoed in the market. How do we keep this momentum going?
Yeah. So for us, the next phase is, and we're starting with the Gartner, is starting to go out and have a series of conversations with business leaders and practitioners to try and redefine what the use cases in TA are. So you're going to see us showing up with Winston, not just as Winston the product, but let's talk about a new way of Winston thinking.
Winston 2.0.
Winston, all 3.0.
Wait, does Winston have a spouse? Does Winston have children? Is there cousins?
I don't know yet. But although it has been prompted.
I saw Winston pretty active in Vegas. I don't know about that, but Lynn, let's where could folks learn more about Winston?
You know what? You can go straight to smartrecruiters.com and you can hear everything you want to hear. It's all there.
Awesome. Well, Lynn, I hope you enjoy some time at home, and the dishes aren't piling up.
They are.
From all your travels. I want to thank you. I want to thank Smart Recruiters. And this has been another wonderful segment of the Global Report with Lynn from Smart Recruiters. Lynn, you have a great day and a great weekend. Thank you, as always, for your time and your insights. Keep it rolling.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Ooh.
We haven't done this in a while.
I know.
I love this. My daughter likes it because then I kind of like, Dad
You
seems
kind of
cool.
know what's up. I feel like
Dad
there's more than just you. There's more than just you that benefit from this. This week's word is kind of a duo. It's low key, and then there's high key. All right. In the chat, if you know what this means, feel free to put it in there. But low key, I use it a lot more than high key. But low key is it's like under the radar. It's not that different from
Down low.
From what it means. It's not that different than what it actually means.
From what it sounds like. But low key. And then you have high key, which if you remember a former word of the week, mother is high key. It's like overstated. It's like out there. It's over the top. It's like it's high key. Adam high key looks great in that hat.
Skibbity.
I could be like, high key, my boss is toxic. Or would I say low key?
Wait. Yeah,
No, you'd say it like
we need examples
if
here.
you were saying it to someone that you trust, it's like, oh, high key, my boss is toxic.
High key.
But then if you were saying it to someone you maybe didn't trust as much, or it was like you didn't want to make a big deal of it, you'd be like, low key, my boss is toxic. You know what I mean?
Or can it be like on it? So it's kind of like saying on the DL, like
kind of on the DL.
kind of on the DL, the down low. We're cool. We're happy.
Joel, you're muted.
I was
Joel,
talking-
you're high key muted.
High key, I was talking to TikTok, okay? Because we're streaming live on TikTok. HR Morning Show is streaming live. Guys, help me
Joel's
out.
low key multitasking.
Well, they should know, but I think my crowd on TikTok is
tech
actually a
heavy.
little bit older. That's okay.
It's kind of the same thing, to be honest.
Alrighty.
Low key, same thing. You're welcome.
Let's go. Let's go off there. Give us a bonus word, Danielle. Give us a bonus Gen Z word.
No cap.
What does that mean?
It's like being like for real,
Like legit.
like legit.
For real, honestly. You ever notice how people, when they say honestly a lot, like they're just lying?
Honestly, I got to tell you the truth.
Yeah, exactly. That.
It doesn't work, folks. Are we ready to keep this rolling? Give me a little thumbs up there. Let's roll.
Oh, we got so many comments just now.
All right,
Did you see that?
Let's pause for a second here.
Hey,
Let's just give a shout out. So
How is it
White
happening?
Evan is saying a bunch of
There was
stuff.
so many comments.
Clark Wilcox is way. Clark.
Capping.
Oh God, what's going on?
Who's
It's just
Clack? Who's Clack Wilcox?
Clack. Oh,
Guys,
it's
I'm
his.
LinkedIn user.
I think
That's so
it's his digital. I think it's his digital twin.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I
Oh
was
my
like, how
God.
how is this
I think our
happening?
producer is just having a little trigger happy down there. So let's keep this show rolling. Who's up next? I hear someone knocking, right?
I don't know
Are
yet.
we-
Oh yeah,
oh
I
no,
think so.
we have. All right, let's
I
keep this show
think
rolling.
I just heard the knock.
Let's give another shout out. I mean, this show would not be possible, guys, without some help from our good friends over at
Erin.
Erin. But we're gonna pause on that for a second. I hear someone knocking now. Who could it be now? Who could it be
Who
now?
could it be?
Roll it, roll it.
Yo, production.
Let's keep it rolling.
Hello, welcome.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, we're excited to have you. Where are you tuning in from?
Austin, Texas.
Ooh, we were just talking about Texas. I mentioned that I want to visit Dallas. I've been to Austin before. I would like to come back, but I have not been to Dallas yet. So which one is it, Austin or Dallas? What's the better city?
Austin's always better. There's, I feel like, more to do, more outdoorsy stuff, and more cool, kind of funky people and music.
Okay. Ooh, funky people. I remember visiting Austin when I was like touring colleges, and it was like stay weird. That was a thing. I
Yep.
went to like the coolest school in the country, USC, shout out. But you know, I liked that. I'm a weirdo, so I liked it. Anyway, welcome. For anyone who doesn't know you, which I know that we're just meeting now
Yeah.
too, which is exciting. Tell us like a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are.
Well, my name's Jess. I'm the founder of Workology. And in 2005, I started a blog for job seekers and ended up getting fired from my job because of my blog, which was an anonymous job search blog. But that was
Wow.
my foray into entrepreneurialism full time. And I continue to provide like online training and in-person training for human resources, recruiters, and workplace leaders.
Wow. And specifically on what?
So I'm somewhat of a generalist, but and I kind of cover all the things. Like we have training for HR certification prep for Sherman HRCI on our website that's available. But then I also wrote a book on digital recruiting. It's called Digitizing Talent. So one of
Ooh.
the nice things about being an entrepreneur is that you can have lots of interests and then create products and services around those things. So that's what I'm able to do. Right now we have some new training that is in pre-sale for artificial intelligence for HR and recruitment, kind of diving into prompt writing and ChatGPT type resources. And then I have another training on workplace investigation. So I kind of just go wherever like my interests take me, and then I'm like, oh, let's make a training or let me dive into those areas.
Super cool. I love that. I always love that as an entrepreneur, you can also collaborate with other people at your, whatever the whim might be. And I always love just hearing how other people do things as well. I think it's super interesting. And I after looking at your LinkedIn profile a little bit and doing some research, I also know that you talk a lot about like burnout and mental health, and you're yoga certified. I'd love to learn more about that side of you as well.
So I have always done yoga, I'll go with spurts. And during the pandemic, like a lot of people, I just kind of was like, what I want to do with my life. If we get out of this, like, what does that look like? And as an entrepreneur, I had two businesses I was running. I was working consistently 70, 80, 90 hours a week, trying to keep those things going. And I said to myself, like, what I want when I get out of this is not to be working 70 or 80 hours a week. And something has to change. So as soon as I was able, I started first with Pilates because I could get private lessons when things opened back up, and then transitioned over to yoga. But it's been really great for me to help with my mental health, my physical health, but just help me understand more about me. So I've been doing daily yoga and meditation for 3 years now. And
Wow.
last year, around this time, I guess I started yoga teacher training too. And so now I also teach at least 3 classes a week. And I really enjoy it. I focus on a different kind of yoga that people might not be familiar with. It's called Kundalini,
Yeah.
and it's the
Love
yoga
it.
of awareness. So it focuses more on breath and mantra and like meditation, some physical movement, but it's less about like hot yoga, like sweating it out, which I love, but and more about like tools and resources to help you battle or overcome
Mm.
burnout, negative self-talk, all those things.
I love that so much. I actually, in college, I was able to take several yoga classes and classes all about like balancing your health and wellness with like the rest of your life. And I learned a lot about the different types of breath that you could, practice. And there was even a story of this student who was diagnosed with cancer, and she was able to like, obviously she also got some help from Eastern medicine, but she used a lot of breath work to
Mhm.
help her through that, and eventually yoga as well. So I definitely understand the power of all of that and movement and breath, and I think it's something that more people are interested in.
Uh, it is, and I will say it's kind of out of necessity. If you look at the numbers, HR and recruiters are 80 to 90% and above burnt out because
Wow.
when the pandemic happened, we took on more work. And now, maybe our jobs have been reduced. And so we have the stress of the job search, or we're working with even smaller teams than we did in the pandemic. So something has to change. And for a lot of us, we don't have the financial freedom to leave our jobs or to go into the job market. But we do have the ability to make a choice to make time for ourselves to help get access to tools to help us maybe reduce our stress so that we can navigate at least the day-to-day kind of stuff that tends to pop up.
Mm. And a question for you. How have you seen your own story and your own experiences, and also your experience as a certified yoga teacher? How has that impacted your ability to show up for like other HR leaders?
I Some of my superpower is the ability to share stories and be honest and transparent and helping people find bits and pieces of their own reality through my stories. I was just talking to a friend, actually just before the interview, here who mentioned that my TikTok series on workplace investigations and as an employee, like what to do and how to take control, inspired them to contact the HR themselves at the place they were working to
Wow.
report their manager for harassment and different, behaviors. So I've always done those things. I think that I didn't realize because I was so burnt out that I was burnt out and that so many other people were experiencing it until I started taking a pause and then just shared a little bit. And it gives people permission to be able to explore or to ask questions, to be curious, which is what I want. And I'm happy to share my experiences in the hope that it can help others.
That's so beautiful. And honestly, it reminds me of my own experience getting into this industry of going through a toxic workplace and then experiencing a really great one and sharing that story and having, to your point, it takes a lot of guts to share a story that is, could be damaging at some point in your career. Like a potential future employer could not want to hire you because, you have a mental health thing, or you have a bipolar and you're open about it, or you talked about a former boss out there online, and I feel like it's just something that you have to learn to live with if you're willing to be the most authentic version of you. It's like, yeah, like what would I rather do? Would I rather fit into a box, or that where I could fit in anywhere, or would I rather be authentic to who I am and also help people, like for the sake of helping people, right? And then secondly, to also attract the types of people that I want in my life and who actually align with me, my purpose, my values, and my belief systems.
Well, I'm unemployable, so there's that. I can never get a regular HR or recruiting job ever again. And not because of the things that I've said on the internet, but just like my mindset. I was just talking with someone about how like I'm always problem solving and looking for a way to delegate or automate things, and that unfortunately is just not really celebrated in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Where you're looking at different solutions, different options to help make your life easier, give yourself some space or place. They want you to put in the hours and do the work. And I'm like, hey, can I just outsource this to somebody on Fiverr and take care of it for me, so that I can go to, maybe a couple extra yoga classes or take a course at the university.
I have a feeling that's such a good point. I do have a feeling that more people are experimenting with that and just maybe not telling their employers that they're doing it, similar to like the AI tools and like leveraging those without necessarily getting the go ahead first. What do you think about that?
More power to them. I think that I would encourage you to do that, to give yourself places and spaces to be able to follow your passions or do things that you love. And it's one of the reasons why I love generative AI so much, because there are so many ways to use it to help reduce your workload, especially in HR recruiting, anywhere from 3 to 10 hours a week. And you just have to explore, be curious, and then ask questions. And I don't know why managers, leaders want to say like, hey, shame on you. Like, don't try to be smarter with your time. Or, hey, I know you saved 10 hours, but we're going to give you 10 hours more of work so that we can pay you because you're not working as hard. That's not the type of culture that I want to work in. So if you're working in a place like that, like these technologies can help you, but I would encourage you to use them responsibly. I don't want you to send me a DM and be like, hey, I lost my job because they found out I was using ChatGPT to do the XYZ. But it can definitely give you space to be able to be more strategic or take some time off. So many of us are working 6-7 days a week.
Wow. Yeah. Also, this is not financial advice. So just want to put that out there. Well, thank you so much for being here, for being vulnerable, sharing your story. And I really commend you for all the content you're putting out there. It's really incredible. It's so hard. Honestly, being a content creator is more challenging than people think it is, and you're rocking it. So keep doing you.
Thank you. I have a great team that helps keep me sane and helps make what I do look easy. And if you're interested in online resources, just head on over to workology.com. We have over 9,000 published blogs and courses to help HR and recruiting level up their skill set.
Love that. Workology.com. Go check it out, guys, and we will see you again soon.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye. Bye, Jess.
That was a great chat. That was some good stuff right there.
Well,
I think we should bring in more of that wellness.
Best.
Yeah, we should. No, I'm not complimenting your interviewing skills. I'm kidding. You're great. You're fantastic. It's been incredible to watch you grow. Speaking of growing, if you want to grow your employee referral program, ERIN. We love ERIN. They're fantastic, and not just because we get this cool swag. This is my stress ball. This is the only swag that I have left besides my shirt, my hat, my sneakers, and all my sloths that I have here. So we could use some more ERIN swag. But if you want to get a sloth of your own, head over to purpleacorn.io/free and check it out. Wait, Joel, show us those kicks. Show us those.
Red Shoe Gang in the house. That's how I do it. I'm gonna be representing these in the UK next week. So if you're in the UK, shout out to the UK. You see those red shoes, it's ERIN walking down the street. Let's go.
But let's we talk about the swag a lot, but we should talk a little bit more about what ERIN is and employee referrals. Your employees are an untapped source, right? They're an untapped source for referrals for new employees. They understand the business, they understand the industry, and they know who would be good there, right? I mean,
I always say the best recruiters are happy employees, and if they're
yes,
not talking about how great it is
Mm.
to work, then you have
brand
potentially a
ambassadors.
culture issue, right?
But guys, I'm curious, doesn't employer referrals like take away from recruiters? Or is that a
Yeah,
fallacy?
Yeah, it does.
it's a team sport.
It is a team sport. And to Joel's point too, there's a lot of also very niche roles, hard to fill roles, specialized roles where us good recruiters are useful. But there's a lot of roles in a
Mm.
lot of organizations, and we get back to efficiency, we get back to timing. So Erin does it right. Erin does it well. We are big fans, and we love them. And thank you for your support, Erin.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you guys that I'm going to, speaking of wellness, going to a wellness event tonight with Ion Learning because they're launching a new course on their platform all about wellness.
Is this like an
So
ayahuasca
I
ceremony?
get
Like
to
what?
go to, no, have you ever heard of Remedy Place?
No, tell us more.
It's a really nice spa. It's a gorgeous spa. It's like
Sponsored by
a,
Aaron.
yeah,
No.
sponsored by Ion Learning. But yeah, I'm gonna be investing in my wellness tonight. So
Good.
I
We should
just I
all
hope
be
that
investing.
we
We should
all
all
do
be. I have a
exactly.
chiropractor appointment on Thursday. I'm gonna get adjusted. That's my wellness,
Look
right?
at us.
I'm
Joel, what
gonna
are you doing for yourself, Mr.
backiotomy.
Business Owner?
What am I doing for what?
For
Oh,
yourself this week?
Uh,
active listening. Active listening.
I'm not. Look, I am. If you guys need recruiting help, hit up the realist recruiter. We're ramping up
Shameless
on
plug.
that BD. So I'm hitting it hard with that
What kind of
BD,
shameless
bringing in
plug is
those
this?
sales. That's how we do it.
Shameless.
Shameless plug. Don't go with pause.
Shameless.
Go with the realist recruiter. That's what I
Shameless.
say.
Well, yeah, we recruit for different
Shameless.
areas. Joel and I
I
recruit for
recruit. I
different
recruit
areas.
everybody. All right. I'm always recruiting. ABR always be recruiting. That's what
Even in
Clockwork
your
Austin say.
sleep.
I say.
Always be recruit. Yeah, fun fact: Joel and I are not just podcast hosts. We are recruiters. We are both awesome. So check us out. Check Erin out.
Hey,
They are
fingers
incredible.
crossed too. I had a final interview yesterday, so let's
Fingers
go.
crossed for you. Sending
Let's
those
go.
good vibes your way. Let's hit that Erin spot.
Let's go.
Let's hit that Erin spot.
Good morning, beautiful people. So, 2 weeks ago on this segment, I brought up the topic of ageism in the workplace. And wow, I received a ton of feedback and interest on this topic. I don't think I realized how much it impacted both older and younger workers, but I'm not an expert. So, even though I'm old, and definitely not what Danielle told me, but I did want to bring an expert on the show to talk about it. So it's my pleasure to bring on Maureen Clow, who is the host of It Gets Early, or as I like to call her, Tropical Storm Mo. How's it going, Maureen?
It's going great. How are you?
Good. This is a new segment on HR Weather, and we're testing how this is going to go. And you're this very special first guest on it.
I
So,
love being a guinea pig. I'm into it.
I love it. So, Maureen, when did you realize that you were old in the workplace?
Yeah. So I was called a dino at age 37 at my
Oh,
tech job. And I was like, what? And then I looked around the room and I was like, wait a second. This guy is like actually kind of not wrong. Like I'm one of the oldest people here. And it just struck me as absolutely insane that that was the case. I'm like, where do all the older people go? It doesn't really make sense. And also like 37, really? That's where we are.
yeah.
Um, And so I started kind of geeking out on it and asking people, do you see this? Do you worry about this? Am I alone here? And it turned out I was far from it. And everybody else was worried about it. Everybody else was thinking about aging out of tech or corporate. And I was like, why is
Mm,
no one talking about this? We have diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And for some reason, age is just not on the table in literally 92% of cases, as PwC found in their latest study. So it's like we're only hitting it 8% of the time, and yet this is the one
yeah,
thing that literally everyone. We're all getting older. Aging is living, and it's coming for us all if we're lucky. So we really need to get ahead of this. But yeah, so I started doing a lot of research and talking to people, and I thought, why not have this conversation in public? And so I started It Gets Late Early, and that's how I feel about the tech industry. It really does. I was like, damn, 37.
yeah.
Suddenly I'm like the ancient person in the room. That there's something off with that. So that's what really kind of lit a fire under me. And, some might call what I'm doing like essentially a midlife crisis. And that's fine if you want to call it that, whatever. Like I turned 40 and I was like, what's happening? But I really feel so strongly that I'm only getting better with time and so is everybody else. And I don't understand why we have this bizarre bias against people who just so happen to
Mm.
be at a different stage in their life than we are. That's lunacy. So that's what it's
I,
all about.
I I agree, and so working in the tech industry as myself, I was just shocked when I got very similar comments that I was old, and I've never felt old. I look really young, as you do as well. So when someone says you're a dinosaur, kind of hurts you, right? Like it's
It's
hurt.
just like, why? Why do we do this? And also in other cultures, we look up to our elders as sources of wisdom and we
Yeah.
celebrate them and they're like vaunted in society. And in our society, for some reason, we look down on them, we marginalize them. And it's, I just think, the most own goal sort of move ever. Like, why would we discriminate against our future selves? That makes no sense.
So in my segment a couple of weeks ago, I brought up the topic of a survey that was done that 90% of folks over 40 had experienced ageism in the workplace. To dig in deeper, 94% of those people reported to HR. And here is a shocking number. Only 45% of those claims were even addressed by HR. So why does HR not take ageism seriously?
That survey boiled my blood, blew my
Did it?
mind,
Yeah.
all of the things. I was like, I mean, if we can't count on HR to step up and advocate for everybody in equitable hiring, like who can we, right? And so
Yeah.
and the sad part is it's so ingrained in our culture that it's not even people in HR's fault, right? Because 1 out of 2 of us are ageist according to the World Health Organization.
Mm.
And I think half those people are lying because we're all fed these ageist stereotypes and all these messages from a young age. Like kids as young as 4 spout off harmful ageist stereotypes. So it's the thing. Like my own kids are like, "Hey, mom, you're old." And I'm like, "What? Like, who told you that? I didn't tell you this." So it's all extremely entrenched in our society. So I don't want to point fingers per se, but like we do really have to start having a conversation. And I think part of the problem is none of us really think we're going to get old. Like I know I kind of always thought getting older was something that like happened to other people and that I was forever
Yeah.
20 or something. Like it's a really weird cognitive dissonance. And we just can't envision ourselves getting older. And then it hits you out of nowhere. So I think that's part of the problem. It's just a cultural thing. And we need to
Mm.
create awareness that this is literally illegal. Like we cannot discriminate on the basis of age over people against people over age 40. Sadly, our laws do not protect anyone under age 40, and ageism can impact the young as well, and in fact has in many, many cases. So it's but it's something that I think people literally just don't know is wrong. So we have to start
Mm.
there with very basic education. So that's where I would say we should begin, and we're pretty far behind where I think we need to be.
Kids are very humbling because my 9-year-old said that I was born in the 1900s. So for anyone listening,
Mm.
never
Oh my
say that to any Gen X boomer born in the 1900s. But like talking about a little bit more in depth about companies and how they're looking at age. And there was a recent post that you put out that basically asked for the year they graduate. So first of all, that's a big no-no. You should never answer that question. But the most interesting part is when it was a drop-down menu and the latest date you could choose was 1990, which basically, if you calculate, that would be 57. So anyone above 57 could not apply for a job there. What happened there? Like, what was the cause of this? How did they miss that?
Yeah, that was so upsetting. So my friend actually sent me this note saying, "Hey, look, I was trying to apply for this job. I was super qualified for it. I was so amped about it. And I was on their website and I went to input like a required field, which was date of graduation, and you literally couldn't select anything before 1990." And he was like, "Well, I guess I'm out then." So he sent it to me and I was really upset about it. And I found out that I went and I tested it myself. It was true. It was not working. And so I made a post about it and was like, look, this is what older job seekers are encountering in this market. Like the job market, as if it's not already tough enough, right? Like, look at this. So I posted it and, people came out of the woodwork saying, I see this all the time. I see it all the time. And certainly I've seen a lot of those like, voluntary age, demographic survey data, things that are not attached to your resume, which I am of the opinion, like I never trust those things. So I would never fill it out anyway. But this was like literally a required field. So that's what happened. The company, after the post blew up and went pretty viral, the company reached out and said, "Hey, we are so sorry. We made an error." And both a person in the chief people officer position and someone in sort of a people coordinator position reached out and said, "Hey, what happened was we were trying to take a job posting that was once an internship and copy that over to the ATS system. And so that 1990 date was entrenched." So yeah, I think internships should be open to people regardless of when they actually
Yeah.
graduate college. So, like, I'm not huge on that, but I think that's less ageism and more an assumption because typically, the average college graduate is 24 in the United States, for example, right? So people assume that you would have graduated a little bit more recently. I get that. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But so they had copied it over incorrectly, and so thereby anyone who was trying to apply to this like product role, this corporate product role, was unable to do so if they wanted to actually tell the truth about when they graduated from school, right? So that's what happened. They apologized, they changed it, they removed the requirement for people to add their graduation date, which I thought was positive. They also, and this was telling for me, in their DEIB statement on their website, they
Yes.
were missing H. And I was like, ooh, that's not a good look. So that they also updated, which I was pleased about. But I'd love to see when companies have these mistakes and whatnot and are called out on a public platform, they have the opportunity to learn from it and to do more and to really double down on their commitment to age inclusion. And so I wish these companies, all of them, would really actually take that opportunity in a more meaningful way because people keep messaging me, are you sure they actually care or did they just get caught? And I like to, I'm an optimist and I like to believe they really mean it. And their story did make sense to me. So, and they were very vocal about how sorry they were about it and whatnot. So I like to believe them in good faith, but other people don't. And so I feel like we should do more on these in these situations when they arise and really address it more head on.
I agree. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt, but
Right?
let's
Why
talk
not?
about
Be nice.
apologizing because you went viral recently when you called out probably one of the best known companies in this industry, Indeed, that put out an
Mhm.
article that basically, with different age demographics, basically saying anyone over 55 is in decline. That was a shocker, right? Because if you think I worked at Indeed, and if you think about diversity, equity, inclusion, Indeed was definitely a leader for any company that I've worked with. So I was shocked to see this. What happened there? Like, how did they screw that up?
Yeah, that was far worse than the thing that I just described in the sense that this is
Yeah.
the number one job site in the world. Like this is a leader and they should know better. They had this career guide that was published for over a year on their website. They actually penned this piece, or AI did, maybe. But it was this incredibly ageist thing. Like you said, it said that people over age 55 were in decline. It basically demarcated people's careers by age bands, which is also super weird in my view. Like, what are you doing? Why? Like, why do we have this weird sort of preconceived notion about different hurdles we need to hit by
Mhm.
certain ages? Like, we need to stop this. It's bad for the young. It's bad for the old. Anyway, so they had these different stages, and then within the guide itself, they actually had extremely harmful narratives. So they said, for example, that when you hit 45 to 55, you're in late career, and you should probably like stop learning and look for people who could be your successor. And I was like, hold on. also want to underscore their CEO is 55 or 56, so he's in decline. So cool. But so yeah, this I think the fact that this existed is really emblematic of how entrenched the ageism is, right? They at Indeed essentially were sort of publishing what is the popular notion of people as they age in their careers. They were reflecting, unfortunately, what a lot of society thinks about people getting older in the workplace. And so I actually oddly am sort of grateful to Indeed for publishing this complete drivel, because it allowed us to have this public conversation and get this out in the open, because it was so incredibly harmful. Now, they did apologize. They took it down. The CMO actually spoke publicly on the post as well, and so they addressed it, which was nice. But again, I'd like to see them go a step further. They were invited to come on my show. They had expressed interest even at the C levels. We were trying to coordinate the interview, and then suddenly their crisis comms team came in and was like, "Yeah, they're not showing up." So anyway,
All right, Tropical
missed
Storm Mo. I would love to get the panel's reaction to this. How about we jump to them? So, Adam, as the oldest person on this panel, I'm just curious, what's your thoughts around this?
Ageism is real. Ageism is real, and I'm talking from the viewpoint of a recruiter who's in the trenches. And I think a lot of companies use the term overqualified, right? That's like an easy way of saying that someone is too old. And I really push back. I am a pro candidate advocate. I push back as much as possible as a recruiter and ask, provoking questions. What makes them overqualified? Like what is it? What is it exactly? Do you not need that value within an organization? And it's a tough one. And I also experience it with my friends. I have a lot of friends. I'm just for level set here. I'm almost 46, and it came quick, right? All of a sudden we're looking in our rearview mirror and we got these kids coming up behind us who, where we were 20 years ago, and they're more affordable, quote unquote, for a company's perspective. And it's reality here. And as you go up the pyramid in your career, there's going to be less opportunities up the corporate ladder. So it makes it even tougher as you get older. So that's another element when we're talking about ageism is a reality, right? There's less positions available at the top. So you put those two factors together and it's no bueno.
Agreed. I'm curious to know what you think as far as, because I think one of the biggest things is we need younger leaders, which are a lot of management right now, to start advocating for the older workers. What's your take on that, Danielle?
I mean, I think that the best way to work is through teams and like working with other people. And so I feel like if you can find people of different ages that you work really well with, was something I've seen and that I've always admired, is when an older person or really anyone from a team is able to bring their counterparts who they love working with to a new company. I think that's one of the best ways that you can kind of keep people in the workplace and keep ageism out, is just focusing on their competency and focusing on like how well you can really work together as a team. I think that's one of the better solutions I've seen.
Agreed, 100%. I think this is where mentors come in play as well on both sides. And also, how are the older generation learn what the Gen Z keywords are? Because I just learned no cap. So
that's why I'm here.
No, the real power is in multi-generational teams, and the companies that understand that, they're going to win the future.
Awesome. Great chat, guys.
Thanks.
All right, let's move on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us.
Storm Mo.
This was awesome, guys. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.
Maureen, before we sign off, where could folks connect? Where could they learn more?
So they can go to itgetslateearly.com, or they can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Maureen W. Clough, Clough. And I hope we can connect. So thanks so much for having me. I'm really glad to get the chance to have this conversation because it needs to be said. Let's get it in the open. Let's make people aware.
Love it. Good stuff. All right, take care. Who's up next? Joel.
All right. Who do we have calling in? This is not Jessica. I don't know why.
No, I was confused too. I was expecting to see Jessica.
No. All right. Look, if people do not know who you are. Why don't you give us a quick intro, who you are and what you do? And it's great to see you, by the way.
I'm Tracy Spanenberg. I forgot to do my little tagline, so it says absolutely nothing. So I'm a former chief people officer. I love the last segment, by the way. I'm 52, so that like really hit home, and that could be a whole other discussion. So I'm a former chief people officer turned advisor and fractional chief people officer to the distribution industry, and I do a few other things like speaking and tech advising and
drinking coffee.
figuring out and drinking coffee, and
Yeah.
I've got the last of it now. So,
All right.
yeah.
Well, I want to ask you, what's your favorite spot? Like out of everywhere you've been, like give me your favorite coffee spot. Where do people need to go? Where is it located?
Brasov, Romania. Like the best coffee I think I've ever had was in Romania. I was there for a conference
Amazing.
earlier this year, so that's a little hard to get to. But I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Blue Bottle. Those are all over the place. in
So
St.
not here. I mean, I have these Starbucks
Is it
gift
Starbucks? I
cards.
love Starbucks.
Yeah, all
Starbucks. I
right.
went
Well,
this
there you
weekend.
go.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, we're talking about fractional. This whole term fractional has I think it's become really popular here in the last 18 months to 2 years. So for anyone who doesn't know what fractional even means, and particularly within the HR space, what does fractional mean to you? How do you operate? And would love to hear a little bit about your journey of how you got to be, a fractional HR leader and how you're helping companies.
Yeah, so I hadn't heard of it until maybe a couple of years ago, and I think I learned about it from Anessa Fike, who I then
Shout
hired
out to
last
Vanessa.
year. Yeah, who I hired last year as my coach because I knew I wanted to do things a little bit differently. And how I think of fractional is basically doing the work of a CPO, but for a fraction of the time, and usually for a number of different companies or a couple of different companies. So you get the best of, you get the work I do is largely strategic, so you get the best of that role for a reduced cost and for a reduced amount of time.
Do you feel like being fractional and kind of being outside the organization, um, is that a benefit a lot of the times? Like I just think about some of the challenges that people can have when they're trying to learn or when they're trying to lead internally. Do you find that it's more challenging, or you have like an advantage, like just being actually outside the organization and having a different perspective?
Both, I think. I think it's hard in a way because you aren't there all the time and you aren't really part of the team. I think some fractional folks make that work where they're really feel more like an employee than not. But the work I do is really very much outside, which you can have an impact and you can have the influence in a way that, and sadly, you could be doing the same kind. Oh, hi, Nikki. And I saw JCK earlier. So, like, as an expert, right? Sadly, doing the same kind of work that I was doing before, coming in as my own business, I'm perceived in a different way because I'm the expert that somebody hires to bring in. And I've had that conversation with a number of HR leaders as well.
Obviously, like anything that's kind of trending, uh, a lot of times people can have a different expectation of what the work looks like. So, if you were to give advice to people who are thinking about going fractional, they're thinking about starting their own business, what's some advice you'd give them? And maybe something to kind of level set the expectation that maybe they have from I don't know, being on social media and kind of seeing the highlights that people post a lot about the work. Like what are some things that you would have them know before getting
Yeah.
into the fractional work?
I try to post the challenges as well as the like good stuff. I mean, the good stuff is that yeah, you make your own schedule, but also that schedule may have nothing in it, right? And so you're also
That's
chasing
my
clients
favorite
and you're
type
doing
of schedule.
right. That would be nice if you were making money to do that, right? So and I think that's one thing. It is scary for me, somebody who craves, that kind of routine. It is scary. So you have to be prepared for that, the ups and downs. You have to be prepared to chase clients for invoices. But the biggest thing I think that I've talked to people who don't always understand this is that if you're leaving because you're burned out, if you're leaving because you hate your job, if you're leaving, for those kinds of reasons, it may not be any better. It might be, but it might not. So you can
Mm.
have terrible clients, you can have terrible workplaces. You have to really want to do it, and you have to really understand what you're getting into, and that it may feel much different for you, or it may feel very much the same.
It's great. I mean, it's great advice too, because I think even if you're just switching jobs, it's like that whole idea of like, are you
Yeah.
genuinely excited about the job that you're going into, or are you just trying to run away from a situation? Not run away, but are you trying to get away from a situation that isn't bad? And I think, or it's maybe it's a bad environment and you are burned out, and that matters, right? Because if you go into the next environment and you haven't looked at why am I burned out, is it the organization? Is it the work
Right.
that I'm doing? How long did it take you to like figure out like this is what I want to do? Like obviously I'm assuming this wasn't like an overnight decision. Like what was the process there to get to the point where you were like, "Yep, I'm gonna do it."
So years ago, so in 2020, my mom died,
Mm.
and then we had a series of other deaths, and we had just like a whole host of challenges. And, going through COVID, I had a chance to work at home for the most part, right? And I just went like, do I want to work? And I'm 52. So do I want to work in an office till I die? Or till I'm in my 60s, right? And so like what did that look like? Or what could my life look like after that? And our kids were getting older. Our youngest is now 18. And so we started to think about like, what are we just going to work full time till we retire? And we decided no. And we started to kind of plan what that would look like. And so I left earlier than planned. I expected to leave in another year or so. Um, but I really wanted to give this year to set up and figure out what I want to do. And it's all different kinds of things, but it was a very intentional move. And it was an intentional move driven on lifestyle. Like, I don't want to add employees. I don't want to, make millions of dollars. That would be nice, but that's not it.
Billions.
Billions
Billions.
of dollars, right? Somebody asked me, have you had your first, like, you know, $200,000 month yet? And I'm like, no, that would be nice, but that's not it for me. For me, it was lifestyle. And
Yeah.
for me, it was traveling around with my husband. For me, it was being able to go cool places. And for me, it was having an impact on the industry I love, which is distribution. And so trying to do all of those things and trying to work backwards to figure out how I can do those. And I'm still figuring it out, and it's changing all the time.
So before we kind of wrap up here, you are so much fun to follow on social media. Like you have such a great balance of like really helpful advice and value, and then it's also just fun to see like where you're at. So for before the end of the year here, where are you going to be? Where can people find you? Like
Mm.
what's the biggest going to be the biggest highlight you think before the end of the year here?
So this weekend, I'm going to a conference at Mount Washington in northern New Hampshire. So the Strategic HR Conference, which is fun. I have friends speaking. I spoke last year, so I'm just going to like hang out and see
That
them
is the
and cheer
best.
them on. That's a best. Like, I have no pressure. A couple days after that, I'm going on a Disney cruise with my husband, which we, as you know, well, the tattoos. So I'm a huge Disney fan, and
Amazing.
so there'll be some pictures from the Bahamas probably. And then I'm doing an industry conference, and I'm moderating a panel on culture for the distribution industry, which is one of my favorite things to do because they're talking about it in recent years, but it's not something they always talked about. And it's always a chance to change hearts and minds in the industry. So I'm doing that in Chicago in mid-November, and then I get a break till January, February.
Amazing. Well, where can people find you? What's the best place to connect? And if people want to work with you, how can they inquire about the type of work that you do?
Yeah, I was the only Tracy Spanenberg on LinkedIn until somebody created a fake profile. So follow the
Oh,
one with more than more than
one
zero
follower.
followers. Yeah, yeah. Follow the one with the picture, and then tracyspanenberg.com is my website, and you can just throw an inquiry through there.
Amazing. Well, Tracy, thank you so much. Always great connecting. And when you're in Chicago, we should try and link up. That is local.
That
And
would be great.
yeah, if you're not connected with Tracy on LinkedIn, highly recommend it. You know, she also has a TikTok as well where she documents her journey.
Trying.
So yeah,
I'm trying. I got to get back on that. I'm trying. It's mostly like foliage lately, so I got to get back on the me being on video.
well, I love it. Well, it's great to see you, and we will move on to our next segment.
Bye, all. Thanks for having
Bye.
me.
Thanks,
Bye.
Tracy. Bye.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to our regularly scheduled programming, virtual from New York and the UK. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm finally in one place and
Yeah.
back at home. Much like Lynn, I've been traveling the world, and I actually came under a little bit of fire for my video covering our topic today. Bosses
Oh, really?
hiring Gen Z grads just months after hiring them, and we will get into exactly why. But I think first we should show the video to just kick off the convo.
Okay.
Bosses are firing their Gen Z grads. Here are my thoughts on that. Some of the stats that you need to know: 6 out of 10 employers have reported that they have fired a Gen Zer a few months after hiring them right out of college. Leading complaints were that we're unprofessional or unmotivated, and that we generally lack motivation. While this might be true for some Gen Zers, it definitely does not apply to most of us. And a lot of the time, stories like this tend to highlight just the surface level, right? Without addressing the underlying problem, which is that 20, 30 years ago when you graduated from college, you actually went into a training program, quite an extensive one. Your parents probably went through one that was 6 to 12 months. And today, that's just not the case. Plus, career centers tend to be trash, and professors haven't worked in the field for many years. Whose fault is it really?
All right. I want to get your unfiltered opinions right off the bat, and then I'll tell you my own reflections after reading some of the comments.
Okay. I many years ago, in the early days of kind of Twitter, or now X, and social media, I wrote a blog called, if I can get it right, Generationalizationalism, which was all about how different generations, and we're X, Z, and it was boomers. It was kind of, I think it was Y. I don't think we were Z yet. And everybody was picking on another generation for something. It was their fault, or they did it wrong, or kind of they're lazy, and it's kind of, it doesn't seem to end. And unfortunately, my own experience of Gen Z, from kind of relations and the offspring of people I know. I find them very motivated. I've spent a number of chats with you. I think you know what you want from life, and I think that's probably slightly different. And I think that there probably are, without picking on generations, more experienced workers in the workplace who maybe had to wait longer to get to places, and there is an urgency, should we say, amongst Gen Z to maybe get on a bit quicker. Also, you aren't devoted to the work and that's it. You have other things, other interests. It fits into the pattern of your life. So, I mean, I'm kind of with you on that. I'm certainly. I know we're supposed to disagree on these things, but I don't really disagree. I think they're wrong, and I think that organisations that do this either don't spend enough time in the hiring process to actually understand the people they're hiring.
Yeah.
I know we touched on equitable hiring, or you did, in the last chat. I think with Maury, or maybe Tracy. I can't remember, one of the two. And that's something that I've been doing some stuff on, because I'm doing a webinar on that soon. And I think that we maybe don't, or organizations, hiring processes don't invest enough in finding out the real motivations of the people that they're looking to hire.
Yeah.
What really and tick, what they really want from the workplace, what they feel they can add, what they want in return. And I think that is possibly, I don't know that AI in any way is going to improve that or not, for TA, but maybe it's we need to do more understanding of the person, and maybe there's far too much kind of the digitalization of hiring as opposed to the human element. I'm not sure. What do
Right,
you think?
right. Well, I mean, I hate to say that I agree, but it's interesting because one
You
of
can
the
agree.
things that got me into this work in the first place was looking at being in college, looking at people who had graduated, being super miserable at work, and kind of just asking this question of why that is, and coming to the conclusion, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that if people are unhappy at work, it means that the people who hire them or the people making decisions on their behalf don't really understand what they want and what's important to them. And so that was really the kind of my motivator for getting into this work in the first place.
Mm.
And, something that I think probably was why I was a little bit under fire in the comments is because a lot of people 20, 30 years ago, and probably more 20 years ago, didn't get that training. They're upset about it. And I think that like everyone deserves to be invested in. If if a company is hiring you and they want you to be the best at your job and show up and use the tools and be efficient and like improve every year, they should be willing to invest in you. And I think that over probably what I should have said, was like 40, 50 years ago, there were more extensive training programs, because I think since probably my mom graduated, and she's 69. So like probably since that time, like to now, there's been, the most shift and the least amount of investment in individuals. And I'm seeing also the buying patterns. We were talking to Lydia, I think it was 2 weeks ago, about the buying patterns within HR, being that individuals are now spending money. They're more likely to spend money on a tool from their own pocket rather than put it through the organization and have to like submit for additional dollars to spend. So I find that this is a problem. Really underlying what's underlying the problem is
Mm.
our desire to invest. And a lot of companies like to say that they care about Gen Z and the next generation, but when it comes time to actually put their money where their mouth is, I find that they fall short.
Yeah, I think that there will always be this kind of mindset of people need to earn their spurs. They need to show that it's worth us investing in them. And it's a shame because it's kind of, it kind of works both ways. I mean, I can go back to when I started in the workplace, and I suppose, although they didn't know what Gen Z was then, I suppose the original managers I worked for would say I'm a bit like what we're talking about now with Gen Z. I didn't want to spend months, years learning from other people. I just wanted to be thrown in and start
Yeah,
trying things out, and I think that there's quite a bit of friction about that. That I was reporting to people who had done 10 years before they got to that
right,
level, and I said, "Well, I want to be where you are in 3 years' time," kind of thing. So
right.
I think
Yeah,
this has been accelerating. Also, what we mean by a career, this cradle to grave, almost, one lifetime doing something, as kind of ebbed away. And most people are going to spend, they're going to have 5, 6, 7 different careers probably.
even
Um,
more, even more.
yeah,
I
yeah.
like,
Some at the
and
same time as well.
yeah, and the fact is that Gen Z is more focused on skill building
Yeah.
than they are about, career building. They're like, what do I need, to focus on a career for if my career is going to last, 5 to 7 years, then I'm on to the next one. So I think it's more about skill building for them, and how many skills can I accumulate so then I can then, apply that to my next role. Because
Yeah.
we're there's a little bit of fear baked into this whole thing too, is like we don't know where the future is going, and so we want to be the most prepared that we can to tackle what the future holds and where technology is going, because it's rapidly transforming. And so I think the organizations that can and I've been saying this for years, but the organizations that can recognize that they're just a step in someone's ladder, or a stop in their journey, and they're really on the team of like, I want you to succeed, like how can you grow at this company while also helping us grow, like how could it be a win-win? I think those are the companies that are going to end up getting the best talent, and really will, even if you do lose that person that you loved, they're going to then tell their friends, oh, this was a great place for me to grow my career at this stage of life, and they're going to refer other people to you, and that's really, it's something that can't be replaced, and it's like employer branding that you can't pay for.
Yeah, it takes a more kind of almost enlightened kind of organization or enlightened mindset to look at it that way. And I suppose a lot of organizations, and possibly I can't go by size because there'll be small companies that are quite flexible and large ones that are inflexible and vice versa.
Yeah.
But I think that it's understanding that it's this almost two-way, that we will help you on the way, as long as you give us the input while you're here, you learn, you do what you're supposed to do. We'll give you as much knowledge as we can. And I think that, okay, if I go back to when I was in your position, the expectation was that unless I hadn't passed whatever the levels were, I wouldn't be, I was expected to stay. They didn't expect people to come in and leave after 9 months or a year. They expected people to come in and spend 10, 15 years there. And so it was that kind of, I mean, I did buck the trend. I actually spent one day in one job and left. I didn't come in the second morning.
Nice.
I called them up to say that I wouldn't be coming in after my first
these
day.
are the stories we need to
I'd
hear.
made an awful mistake. Yes. Yeah, I did make an awful mistake. But
for those companies that are, or those leaders who are like on the verge of maybe firing their Gen Z employee, like what would you say to them? Hire me.
Why are you firing somebody who has probably not that much workplace experience? You've obviously hired them for a reason. Why would you, unless you've done something, said something, obviously been rude to someone, or you've displayed behaviors over your first few days, weeks, months, which don't align with the organizational behaviors? If not, why are you not investing in this person? But I don't know to what extent people are held to account in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, within organizations.
I would probably guess that it's just easier to fire someone than it is to invest in them, and as a leader take the time to learn how to navigate that. And I think I want to see more leaders step up to the plate and like be willing to sit down and like have those harder conversations and go through tougher moments with younger employees, because that's the way that we're going to repair this. That's the way that we're going to learn how to work together as multi-generational teams, going back to our earlier conversation here. And I would also say, I talk about that, like, this is why I have a business. Like, I talk about Gen Z. I help organizations do this kind of work. So thank you so much, Mervyn. It's been always a pleasure, and we'll talk soon.
I'm sure we will.
All right. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Dog, it's Sammy, and that's Clark's. That's Clark's dog.
Cute.
What could you tell us about Clark's dog, Danielle?
Instead of Clark, we get Sammy. Well, Sammy likes to do a lot of things in
the snow, run on the beach,
play in the snow, and he even can make snowballs. But you can't see that here because.
Well, big shout out our pet HR pause of the week. It's sponsored by This Way Global. I want everyone to check out Sully's Sandbox, their new and impactful AI tool. So big shout out to This Way Global, and shout out to Clark. And maybe when Clark comes back next week, he could tell some funny stories about Sammy.
So sweet. I love it.
So sweet. And thank you, This Way Global. Definitely check them out. We appreciate your support. So Joel had to bounce, so it's just you and I wrapping things up today. This was a good one.
Me
Lots
and
of
my
information.
bunkle.
Me and Kid Sis over here. We are a dynamic duo, but even better when Joel is with us. We want to thank everybody for joining us and spending their morning and their early morning out on the West Coast with us over here. Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Erin, for all of your sponsorship and partnership, and we appreciate you guys. And stay tuned for Hire Her, a Talent Collective podcast that comes to you Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 on the East Coast. And if you want more, check out our purpleacorn.io. Find us on Spotify and tune in. We certainly appreciate you and your time. And Danielle, you have a great day, and everyone have a great week.
See you next week, folks.
We're out.